Maybe right now you're going through something that you can't easily explain. It's like the world you once knew has quietly fallen apart without warning, and now you're walking through strange territory where nothing feels familiar anymore. Everything that once made sense suddenly feels distant, blurry, almost meaningless. You wake up and look around, and the things that used to give you direction, your habits, your dreams, your goals, even your sense of self, don't seem to fit you anymore. They used to feel solid, but now they feel like shadows from a past life. You try to hold on to them, but they slip away like water through your fingers. And in that silence, somewhere inside you, an uneasy question starts to rise. What's happening to me? You might wonder if you're breaking down, or if your life has somehow lost its meaning. This question stays with you. It sits quietly in the back of your mind, following you through every day. You try to drown it out. You work, scroll through your phone, go out, do whatever you can to stay busy. But the moment everything quiets down, that feeling returns, as if it's been waiting for you in the dark. This feeling can be suffocating. It's like being trapped in a narrow hallway that keeps getting tighter, and you have no idea if it leads to freedom or to a dead end. But here's what I want you to understand. This isn't your destruction. It's not the end of your life or some irreversible collapse. It's something very different. It's a kind of birth. What you're going through is the moment when you finally stop living on autopilot. For the first time, you are seeing life without all the filters that once made it easier to ignore what was really going on. The philosopher Kierkegaard called this anguish, not as a weakness, but as the first real sign that you're waking up. Until now, maybe you were living by a script that someone else wrote for you, following the path that others told you was the right one. You studied, worked, built an image, maybe started a family, achieved some goals. On the surface, it worked. It kept things stable for a while. But then, one day, you started to ask yourself, what about me? What do I actually want? Who am I beneath all these roles I play? That's the turning point, because that question is like a small crack forming in a wall you didn't even know existed. A wall that has been keeping you trapped. For the first time, you catch a glimpse of what lies beyond it. But to reach that new space, you have to walk through the darkness, through the emptiness, through the unknown. And that emptiness, as terrifying as it feels, is actually where your freedom begins. It's not a comfortable kind of freedom. It's raw, uncertain, and it doesn't come with instructions. But it's real. The pain you're feeling right now is the cost of leaving behind a false sense of stability, a life built to make everyone else happy but you. It's the shock of realizing that nobody is going to hand you a ready-made purpose. You'll have to create it yourself, one choice, one day at a time. I know it feels unbearable right now, but believe it or not, this might be the most important moment in your entire life. It's when the version of you that lived on autopilot starts to fade away and the real you begins to appear. And even though it's uncomfortable and uncertain, this is the only path that leads to a life that's truly your own. From childhood, you were probably taught that there's a safe, logical way to live. Study hard, get a good job, build a family, buy a house, and everything will work out. You were told that success and stability are the signs of a good life, and you believed it, because everyone around you did too. You measured your worth by how close you came to that perfect picture. For a while, that belief system worked. It gave you comfort to think that if you just did your part, things would fall into place. It felt good to imagine that there was some invisible map guiding you. A formula that everyone before you had followed and proven to work. But one day, something inside you shifted. It didn't happen suddenly like a loud explosion. It happened quietly, almost like a leak that goes unnoticed until one day the whole wall is damp. You started to sense that the things that used to bring pride and satisfaction now feel empty. The job that once made you feel secure now feels dull and meaningless. That relationship that once made you feel whole now feels distant, disconnected. The beliefs that once gave you clarity now leave you with more questions than answers. The promises that once kept you moving, success, love, security, don't hold the same power anymore. What used to get you out of bed now barely moves you. This is what Kierkegaard described as despair, not a disease, not a failure, but a brutal kind of awakening. You start to realize that much of your life wasn't built on real choice. It was shaped by what your family, culture, and society expected from you. It's like you've been acting in a play for years without knowing it. And when the illusion breaks, when you see the truth for what it is, it shakes you to your core. The comfort you once had disappears because now you can see that the path you were walking wasn't really yours. The hardest part of this realization is that even though you know the old answers don't work, you don't yet know what your own answers are. You're caught in between, the world you've outgrown and the one that hasn't formed yet. That's where the real anguish starts to grow. It is the space between endings and beginnings, the space where you're forced to face yourself without distraction. But this emptiness, this discomfort is also where something powerful begins. Because when the old meanings fall apart, space opens for something new, a deeper awareness, one that refuses to settle for borrowed truths. It's the start of a new kind of clarity, one that doesn't depend on anyone else's map. And that's what this moment is about. When you finally step off autopilot and face the open, unknown space in front of you, that's where the real transformation begins. It is when your anguish stops being just a burden and starts becoming proof that you were awake. That feeling that keeps bothering you, the constant tightness in your chest, the restless nights, the sense that something's missing even when everything looks fine, that's not a defect. It's not a weakness, it's a signal. Kierkegaard called it the dizziness of freedom. It's the strange, disorienting feeling that comes when you realize there is no solid ground under your feet anymore, that there are no more scripts, no more rules, no more fixed directions. It's scary because you've spent your whole life walking along well-marked paths. Others told you what success means, what love should look like, what's right and wrong. But now, for the first time, there's no one left to guide you. The old voices have gone silent. Anguish appears when you're torn away from that comfort of certainty. It's the uncomfortable truth that there is no pre-written meaning waiting for you to discover. There's no guaranteed answer hiding somewhere. Life won't hand you a purpose. If it's going to have meaning, it'll be because you build it yourself. One decision, one sacrifice, one moment at a time. And that's why it's so terrifying, because it demands full responsibility. It asks you to own not just the easy parts of life, but the messy, confusing, painful ones too. This kind of anguish doesn't disappear through distraction. You can bury it under work, chase after pleasures, fill your days with entertainment, but it always returns. Because it's not something to escape, it's something that wants your attention. It's your inner self trying to tell you, stop watching your life from the sidelines. It's pushing you to take the steering wheel. It's not your enemy. It's an alarm bell, reminding you that you've stepped out of the dream, that you're finally awake, and that you're facing the real questions that matter. Even if you don't yet have the answers, just facing them means something has changed. As strange as it sounds, this anguish is a kind of privilege. It means you're no longer numb. It means your vision has pierced through the surface, and now you see the cracks underneath. Most people never get here. They spend their lives too distracted, too busy, too comfortable to ever question what they're doing. They keep living without ever really living. You, on the other hand, have reached a limit, and because of that, you're closer to the beginning of something new than you realize. But before that new can emerge, something old has to fall apart. This is where the destruction begins. Not physical destruction, but the breaking down of illusions, the crumbling of false ideas that kept you confined. This fall isn't something you choose. It's something that happens naturally when you start to see clearly. And though it feels painful, it's also what sets you free. To rebuild something truly your own, you first have to let what's false collapse. You can build a solid house on a cracked foundation. No matter how beautiful the outside looks, it won't stand. In your case, that foundation is made up of all the beliefs and values you were given before you ever got to question them. They shaped your idea of success, love, identity, and happiness. But now, one by one, they're falling apart. And when that happens, it's like floating in space, weightless, with nothing solid to grab onto. The ground you used to stand on is gone. What's left is a vast, silent emptiness that feels more frightening than any physical pain. Because it is not just the absence of answers, it is the absence of the person you thought you were. The job that once made you proud now feels like a cage. The beliefs that used to comfort you no longer fit. The relationships that used to define your worth now feel like invisible chains. Everything that once felt like the foundation of your life starts revealing itself for what it truly was. Fragile walls painted to look strong. And when those walls fall, you're left standing exposed, raw, vulnerable, uncertain, facing a world that suddenly feels enormous and unpredictable. The strange truth about losing everything you thought was certain is that even though it feels like destruction, it's actually a kind of release. What looks like the end of everything you know is, in reality, the start of something purer. Kierkegaard saw this moment as a cleansing, a painful but necessary process that strips away every illusion you once leaned on. It's not punishment, even if it feels like one. It's the mind and soul clearing space, removing everything false so that something real can finally appear. It's not easy to let go of the things that once made you feel safe. Those beliefs, routines, and goals used to hold your world together. But now, when they no longer fit, you start to see that without them, you can finally stand on your own. You start walking again, this time with your own legs, not because someone told you where to go, but because you've realized you can decide for yourself. There's no shortcut here. You can't skip this stage or trick your way around it. If you try to rush through or rebuild your life too soon, you'll only end up creating the same patterns that brought you to this breaking point. Destruction, as harsh as it sounds, is an invitation to finally take control of your own story. It asks you to take responsibility for your existence, even if that means walking through an emotional desert where everything feels uncertain. Every step forward might feel heavy and unclear, but each one matters. And it's exactly here, when everything familiar has fallen apart, that the hardest question appears. What now? How do you move through this emptiness without getting lost in it? How do you rebuild when everything you once trusted is gone? This is the moment that tests everything in you. It is the point where you must make the most courageous choice you've ever made, to take the leap. Not a leap of belief in a divine sense, but a leap into life itself. A leap into the unknown. You reach a point where the past no longer exists, and the future hasn't taken shape yet. Many people stop here. They stand frozen at the edge of the unknown, waiting for someone else to come save them, to hand them a new rule book, to give them direction. They wait for a sign, a voice, something to make it easier. But no one comes. There is no guide, no savior, no ready-made path waiting to be discovered. The silence you face is real and heavy, and that's when you realize that you're the only one who can move forward. You either take the leap or you stay still and let the emptiness swallow you. That leap, this leap of faith, is not about trusting in something you cannot see. It's about trusting in yourself, in your own ability to build meaning even when there is no proof that it will work. It's about daring to live genuinely even when the results are uncertain. This is the moment you stop waiting for permission and start creating your own direction. You stop searching for a ready-made meaning hidden in someone else's words or philosophy, and you start shaping it through your own actions. You build it through the choices you make every single day, through how you treat people, how you spend your time, how you respond to your fears. Taking this leap feels like jumping into a river without knowing where it leads. You can't see the other side. You just have to trust that by moving, by flowing with life instead of fighting it, you'll eventually find your way. There's no bridge to cross safely, no map that guarantees anything. The only way through is by moving forward, through the chaos, the doubts, and the discomfort. This is not a blind act. It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's an act of will, a decision to live by what feels real to you, even when it doesn't make sense to anyone else. It's deciding to act according to what you believe deep down, instead of following what others think is right. When you take this leap, something inside you shifts. The fear doesn't vanish, but it loses its control over you. It stops being your cage and becomes your companion. You start learning to live with uncertainty, not as an enemy, but as a reminder that you're alive. You begin to see that uncertainty keeps you awake, aware, and human. It pushes you to keep questioning, to stay curious, to move forward instead of settling into comfort. And it's in this space, this unknown territory, that true freedom finally begins to reveal itself. Freedom no longer feels like a beautiful idea in a book. It becomes real. It becomes the way you breathe, the way you make choices, the way you live. But freedom doesn't come without weight. It's not only about doing what you want. Real freedom carries responsibility, and that responsibility can feel just as heavy as the chains you broke. Once you take control of your life, you can no longer blame anyone else for what happens. You can't blame your past, your parents, your luck, or the world. You can't hide behind the excuse that you were just doing what you were told. Once you realize you are free, everything changes, because everything becomes your choice. Every decision, every mistake, every success, they're yours. There is no one left to fix things for you, and there's no invisible plan to rely on. The world stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens through you. That's why freedom scares so many people. It's not romantic or easy like the movies show. It's rough, uncomfortable, and full of uncertainty. It demands strength and persistence. Every day, you have to decide again that you won't run back to the comfort of old patterns. Every day, you have to remind yourself that you'll stay true to the life you are trying to build, even when it feels impossible. Freedom means waking up every morning and saying to yourself, "I'm responsible for this life," and then living that way. It's not glamorous. It's not always inspiring, but it's real. There's beauty in this struggle, though. When you take full responsibility for your life, even small victories start to feel meaningful. You know that what you achieve comes from your own effort, your own decisions. It's not luck. It's not coincidence. It's you. And even when you fail, it's still your experience. You learn, you grow, and you adjust. There's something deeply fulfilling about living like that. It's the feeling of being in control of your own story for the first time. No matter how small or imperfect your progress might seem, it's yours. You're no longer trying to meet the expectations of others. You're not living to impress or to prove anything. You're living from a place of truth. That authenticity, flawed, real, and raw, is what makes life truly meaningful. And this is the hidden truth behind your crisis. What once looked like a complete breakdown was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to wake you up. It was the moment that pushed you out of the small, comfortable life that was slowly killing your spirit. Every emotion you felt, the emptiness, the confusion, the fear, the exhaustion, was part of the process of transformation. You weren't falling apart. You were being rebuilt from the ground up. The pain was never the end. It was the beginning of a rebirth that was long overdue. Freedom doesn't arrive as a gift wrapped in calm and beauty. It comes as chaos. It arrives when you have nothing left to lose and everything to discover. It's raw, unpredictable, and wild, like a storm clearing the sky after years of stillness. You'll go through moments where you feel you've lost everything, only to realize you've actually gained something priceless: yourself. Because in losing all the false layers, all the roles and masks you were taught to wear, you finally meet the person beneath it all, the one who can stand alone, think freely, and choose with clarity. That's the real gift of the crisis. It takes away what isn't yours, so that what is truly yours can finally grow. You'll start noticing that even the smallest things begin to feel different. Conversations will feel more honest. The world will seem more vivid. Your silence will no longer be empty. It will feel full, alive, meaningful. You will begin to understand that meaning isn't found in one grand revelation or one perfect answer. It's built moment by the choices you make. Every time you decide to stay true to yourself instead of falling back into the old patterns, you're building meaning. Every time you face fear and act anyway, you're building meaning. Every time you refuse to numb yourself with distractions, you're giving birth to a new version of life. And now that you've come this far, there's no going back. You might try to return to the comfort of your old ways, but something deep inside you has already changed. That change is irreversible. You've seen too much, felt too much, understood too much to ever truly fit back into that smaller version of life. And that's what this rebirth feels like. It's not clean or easy. It's messy, full of tears, confusion, and exhaustion, but it's also the first time you've truly been alive. This new life doesn't promise stability or eternal happiness, but it gives you something even more valuable: truth. A kind of peace that comes from being real, even when reality hurts. And when you finally understand that, everything begins to make sense in a strange, quiet way. You stop chasing the illusion of a perfect life. You stop trying to find meaning in what others tell you to value. Instead, you start creating it yourself. You begin to live more simply, more consciously. You start building from the inside out. This doesn't mean you'll never feel lost again. You will. But now you'll know that being lost is part of the path. You'll know that discomfort isn't the end. It is a signal that growth is happening. That's how freedom feels in real life. Heavy, raw, but worth every second. You're now standing at the edge of something new. The question is what you'll do with it. You can treat your crisis as just another painful memory, something you survived but prefer to forget. Or you can treat it as the foundation of a new life, one that's honest, self-directed, and full of meaning. You don't need to have everything figured out right now. You don't need to know exactly who you'll become. What matters is that you keep walking, keep choosing, keep creating. Because meaning isn't waiting somewhere out there. It's built step by step through the way you live each day. And maybe that's the quiet beauty in all this. The peace that comes after the storm isn't about having all the answers. It's about realizing you don't need them to live fully. It's about waking up each day with the courage to face life as it is, unpredictable, uncertain, but real. That's where freedom begins. That's where you begin.